Do you ever think back to when you were a kid and literally everything had the potential to be twisted into something incredibly cool by your imagination? Yeah, me too. But I was kinda lazy as a child, so I decided to let video games do the imagining for me. What does that have to do with this game, you ask? Absolutely nothing, seeing as I was never really into cheap plastic miniature toy cars. Nonetheless, this game was very important to me when I was growing up, and that is the kind of media I mainly want to highlight on this channel.
Well, what do we have here? Another rookie YouTuber trying to make a name for himself by talking about games from his childhood, eh?
Wait, officer, I didn't mean to sound so generic. It'll get better, I promise. Just give me some time, please.
Yeah, that's what they all say, ain't it? Listen up, boyo, and listen well. We used to believe people like you once, and look where it got us. Now, this is a Class 3 Act 2 grave offense, and the only way to deal with that is by public...
We have a code ME1 on our hands! Oh god, requesting further backup, over!
This is Unit 07. What is your location? Over.
Fuck! Thank God, Claude! We're a few blocks south of your position! We need immediate backup!
We're on it! Over and out! Looks like this is your lucky day, kid. Some poser is about to upload his first episode of a Minecraft LP. Let's move, boys!
Well, with all these damages, I really need to get this YouTube thing up and running. Anyways, I'm from FromHerotoZero, but you can call me Andy. Let's get this show on the road. Let's jump into our time machines and travel back to the year 2003. The GameCube was just about 1 year old, and I actually bought one that summer, but more on that in a later video. '03 was a big one for almost everyone interested in something, and saw the release of the 5th Harry Potter book, the last film in the Lord of the Rings trilogy, 2 Matrix films, Silent Hill 3, the Nokia 3200, and the song Hey Ya by Outkast, among others. Did I care for any of this at the time though? Of course not. The only thing I cared about was getting home from school as fast as possible so that I could get as much time in front of my consoles as I could get away with. So why was I playing a game released in 1999 in 2003? Well, it just so happens that I was hospitalized in early October of that year. You see, I had this large birthmark on the inside of my left foot, which my doctor recommended to be removed in case of a cancerous growth forming within it. Doesn't sound too bad, right? And to be fair, it wasn't either. All they did was cut away the birthmark and replacing it with skin from my groin, because surely no one will ever care about that area, am I right? Up top! However, part of the healing process included having to lay completely still in the hospital bed for over 2 weeks. God. You know how a child's mind works at the age of 10? You get bored at the drop of a hat. And after a lot of complaining on my part, they literally stole an N64 from some other patient's room and brought it to mine. I'd call them out on their work ethics, but I was way too young to know what the word ethics even meant, so really, I was just happy I finally had something fun to do while I was there. Yeah, I was a spoiled fucking brat. But Andy, I hear you say a couple thousand miles from here while I'm most likely asleep. Why didn't you just bring your GameCube? Excellent question. My parents wouldn't let me. Anyways, overjoyed that I finally had an actual video game to play, I quickly had my mom set up the console and put the cartridge in, while I contemplated why they had only brought in 1 game with the console. Oh well, I thought, there's no way this giant hospital in the middle of this huge city only has 1 game, so I'll just play this while I wait for them to fetch the others. And so my mom hit the power switch, and I was exposed to this game for the first and what I thought was the last time until a few days ago. Don't you just love how anticlimactic the language select screens are? I don't know if this is something the NTSC versions had, but for us in the PAL territories, this was normally the first thing you would see when we started up the game. Oh, hang on, controller pack. Right. So I know I haven't gotten to the actual title screen yet, but I kind of want to take a detour and talk a little bit about this. Who in their right mind thought this was a good idea? And I'm not talking about that this thing is basically a memory card that you stick in your controller, but the fact that this game also supports the Rumble Pack. But you can only use one of them, which gives you the option of either saving your game or using your controller as an oversized vibrator. Actually, if you look at it that way, the N64 controller just more and more resembles a sex toy. But I digress. At the time, I didn't think too much of the screen. Heck, I didn't even own a controller pack until like 2 years later on. And after all, I was certain that the lovely nurses were turning the hospital on its head to find more games for me to enjoy. Oh yeah, remember when EA was actually a good Didn't know this game had jump scares. Before we go on, let me take a second to note that this music is maybe the worst compressed audio to ever be loaded onto an N64 cartridge, and it's making my ears bleed. Oh god, please send help. Anyways, this is the main menu. Other than the ultra slow moving text and that it's a little bland, I feel that this is a perfectly acceptable menu screen for a racing game. You have your currently selected car for player 1 and 2, the map of the track you're playing, and buttons for changing said stuff. Sign in is for changing your name. Options is just that, and the one that's on the bottom, separated from the others because he's simply too fat, is where you choose the game mode. I want to take a minute to commend the options screen though, because not only do you have the ability to choose what music you're listening to while racing, awful as it might be, but it also allows you to fully customize the controls. Just a nice little touch that you don't see very often, even in this day and age. Like, seriously, I hope I don't lose any limbs or anything, because that basically means I won't be able to play my favorite games anymore.
Changing the jump button from X to B isn't enough, Nintendo!
So, now that the important stuff is out of the way, let's start talking about the modes and the gameplay. There are 5 modes to choose from. Exhibition mode is a single race against 5 opponents on the track of your choosing. In Airtime Challenge, you compete for the most points by doing tricks. Practice and Practice Airtime are pretty self-explanatory, and then there's Hot Wheels Cup. This is the main mode, where you race through multiple tracks for the highest combined point total based on your placing. The game tries to fool you into thinking there are other ways to win, but really the only thing that matters is that you come in first place, whether that be by taking all the shortcuts, doing stunts to fill up your turbo, or just scrapping your opponents so they lose time by having to spend 3 whole seconds to respawn. There are multiple cups too, some with a lot of stages and some with 1. What never changes though is that you race against 5 other racers, making the total amount of participants 6. The rubber banding is god awful, to the point where no matter how well you're driving, you cannot mess up near the end, or else your closest rival will overtake you in a matter of seconds. And you race around the track for 6 laps. What? 6 laps you say, but the earlier footage shows 4. Yep, in an attempt to artificially lengthen the game, the developers made it such that in Cup mode, you will have to do 6 laps as opposed to the 4 you do in Exhibition mode. Here's the thing. There aren't really that many tracks here, but they can be kinda long, so 4 laps is already stretching it. It's true, there are hidden areas and cars to find throughout the tracks, but finding the hidden areas takes a maximum of 3 laps, and that's if you even want to risk it, because some of these are really hard to get to, and picking up the hidden cars will, in most instances, require you to either drive into a small passage along the course, or turn around and drive back the way you came. In a race for first place, you don't want to do anything that could chance you getting passed by your rivals, especially not when you have to sink this much time into completing one stage. Thankfully, you can find these secrets in pretty much all the other modes, thank God. Speaking of other modes, Airtime Challenge is part of what makes this game really stand out, except for the, horribly compressed music. In this mode, you compete against yourself to get the most points by doing tricks in any given stage in a set amount of time. The card to use for this is the Go card, as it's the one card in the game, bar none, with the best stunt stat. Coupled with a half-pipe in Cold Fusion, it makes it ridiculously easy to amass a ton of points. But sadly, as far as I know, this is just for bragging rights and doesn't really unlock anything. It's still really fun though, and doing these stunts is an integral part of the game, which is obvious seeing as every stage in the game is designed around them. One of the first things you see in Dawn Encounter, the intro stage if you will, is a big jump where you smash through a danger sign in midair. Cold Fusion has the half-pipe of course. The road to Rustwell has you jumping over a tar pit and smashing into some steel pipes if you have enough momentum, and RM Sludge Works, one of the unlockable tracks, is just fucking insane with sawblade pits and rotating walls of death. That's just some of the stages, but all of them has their own little charms and are generally pretty well done. The only thing that's annoying are the invincible walls that sometimes stops you from doing tricks, especially in narrow areas, but that's about it I think. Oh yeah, and the fact that if you take a shortcut right here in Helicrash, your entire lap will be rendered invalid. I was fucking fuming when that happened when I was recording footage for this. As you can see, this game has it all. It's no wonder I was entranced even though I didn't have the ability to save my game. Hot Wheels Turbo Racing is not just a racing game, but a damn good game in general. The cars control very well, though it might take some time to get used to the aerial movement, and while some cars feels a bit samey, the ones on the opposite scale of each other feel completely different. And hey, if you're looking for variety, there's a massive 40 different vehicles in the game, most of which you will have to unlock. A Mario Kart this ain't, but it does not deserve to be overlooked when talking about great Nintendo 64 titles.